Welcome. Today's webinar is Making Management Tasks Easier with Totara. And um, my, my name is Tammy Frame, and I am presenting from eClass for Learning. Some of the things that eClass for Learning provide are Totara software, hosting, onboarding and support, that's one of our strengths, theme customization services, custom development, customizing the software, report building, course development, e-commerce setup, and end user support are some of the things that we do. So if any of those things are of interest, feel free to contact me. This is my contact information. I am the Chief Education Officer at eClass for Learning. This webinar is being recorded, and following the webinar you will get an archive of the webinar with my contact information as well. And I'd be happy to answer any further questions that might come up that if you don't think of during the webinar. Okay, in your GoToWebinar, which is the platform we're using for the webinar, there is a questions tab, and please feel free to put questions in there. I will be happy to answer those. Maybe the first question that I have is, it was a little bit weird on the setup today. It didn't start right away the way I thought it would. So can everybody see my screen and hear my voice? If you would just put a yes, or if somebody would in the question, that would make me feel a little bit better. Yes, okay, thank you very much for doing that. I really appreciate it. Okay, I really appreciate questions throughout the webinar. I think it makes it a lot more interactive and exciting. So feel free to put those in there. I tend to put people on mute just because of past experience, sometimes dog barking, people in the background, phones ringing. That really helps us out. But I do really appreciate questions, and I think even if I don't know the answer, we can send it to our engineering team and get back to you too. So I think we can all learn a lot from each other just by our questions. All right, with that, I'm going to close my PowerPoint and go directly to a Totara sample website, a sandbox that I have set up for today's webinar. Okay, and today's topic, we tend to do lots of different parts of Totara throughout the month. We tend to have 2 or 3 webinars on different topics because it's such a feature-rich LMS that there's a lot to it, and I think looking at smaller parts of it and getting a little deeper is a great way to learn. So that if this is your first webinar with us, I hope that you attend some of the future ones. We also appreciate any suggestions of things that you would like us to cover. So today I really wanted to talk about the manager role and how Totara can make the manager's life easier. And by manager, I mean somebody that supervises or oversees other people in an organization. So what I wanted to start out with is I'm logged in as a fake fictitious manager who has a fake team who's done a few things here. And I want to talk about the manager profile just a little bit. How does the system know that somebody is a manager? So I'm logged in as Michael Weber, who's a fake manager that I made. And in the profile, we have basic profile information about Michael Weber here, but there's a second part to the profile called positions, and it has 3 parts. It can have a primary position, a secondary position, and maybe an aspirational position that they're working towards, because Totara is very good at helping with talent management and helping people get to the next level in an organization too. If I go to Michael Weber's primary position here, it would have that person's title, but it also has who the manager is. And that can be manually chosen. If there was nobody, there would be a tree, and it would show different users in the system that you could select if you were a site admin. More often what's common is we do a lot of system integrations with HR systems. So let's say you're using something like UltraPro or something like that, or an Active Directory or a combination of those things. It might match on the user, there'd be a field called Manager ID. And in that field, if you put the employee ID, if the person is in the system, then it assigns that as a manager. And then the system knows that that person is a manager. Then the system, anybody that has that person as their manager ID, they get assigned to that manager's team. And that manager can see a lot of reporting and information at a glance about their team. So a lot of the people set up their Totara so that there isn't a home tab, but it goes directly to My Learning, which is a dashboard. And because Michael Weber is a manager, I kind of customized his dashboard to be things that would be helpful to him. And every user, if your site administrator allows this, can customize this page, or you can lock it down. And if they have the ability to customize, there's a button here, and they can move these widgets around. And there are also other blocks of things that might be useful to them that they can add. I picked out the blocks that I thought would be most useful for a typical manager. And we'll kind of walk through this. So I'll stop customizing the page. And the first block that I have is My Learning. So not only is the manager probably overseeing someone, but they're probably learning within the organization as well. And so this is kind of like a quick links to their own learning. So these are learning plans that the manager might be working on. And a little later in the webinar, we're going to go over what a learning plan is a little bit deeper. We're going to show how to create one, how to approve one, and so on. Bookings, Totara does both online learning, but it also tracks face-to-face events like webinars or live events or conferences, and it allows people to sign up for them. And so I have a CPR workshop that I attended in the past, and that's showing up here. If I go back to My Learning, I can also have a record of learning, which is sort of a transcript of every type of learning that I've done in the past. So this would be my courses. This would be competencies that I'm working on or have been assigned to me. Looks like I haven't done a lot of work. A couple of them have been approved and are competent, but I have a lot of work to do there yet. Objectives. Objectives are usually written with the manager and the employee. So this is my manager has to approve this yet, and we'll talk about how that gets done. Any other evidence that I've uploaded to show that I've met certain competencies or things that I'm required to do. I haven't added any evidence. And any certifications that I've been working on. I have one that's overdue and one that's not set. So that gives me kind of a quick overview of, in this little block of the things that I personally am working on. Now here is my team. So anybody that had my employee ID listed as the manager, these are people that I supervise. So I supervise Susan Bailey, and I put myself for Michael Weber to supervise. This is also viewable in the My Team profile here. And we'll go over this a little bit more, what each of these means and how we can drill down and get information at the team a little bit later in the webinar. But I also just opted to make it a quick thing on my dashboard. Now the next thing that I moved to the top were the tasks. And the system will send a lot of alerts to the manager of what they need to do, and those things go into their email that's associated with their account. So not only would it show up here, but it will also show up as an email that Michael Weber would have received. So these are tasks that have been assigned to Michael that he hasn't done yet. And so here we have a 360-degree feedback survey that has to be done for Dr. Bailey, and it shows me more information. I would have gotten an email with a live link. I also have the link here if I want it. Another place that this will appear is under the appraisal tab, which has to do with reviews. And then there's 360 feedback. And right now, this is my 360 feedback that I've sent out, and I've picked 3 people. And I have 3 new responses, so I'd be able to review those. So far, as a manager, Tammy Freen asked me to do one, and I completed it. But now Dr. Smith and Dr. Bailey I still haven't done. So I can either go to that URL or click on the Respond Now. This can be set up by your organization. This is one that I just made up for demo purposes. But you can make up the scales, the questions, the criteria. And so we'll just go through and add these. And then the person will be able to see the feedback. It can be either anonymous or it can see who it's from. Okay, great year. Okay, so I'm not sure that makes a lot of sense, and we'll submit the feedback, and now that person will see it. Great, we got a question. Does Totara have graphical capability that presets overall organizational learning completion with the ability to drill down through levels of the organization to the granular level of the learner? Okay, that's a pretty big question. The short answer is yes, but let me get to the long answer a little bit because there are so many ways that Totara can be set up. You can set up a learning plan that does go out to everybody in the organization, or you can drill down to different people or even the individual levels of the organization. So let me just talk a little bit about how that works. This is an excellent question. So I'm going to go out of Michael Weber's because I have to be a site admin to set up the mapping. So I'll log in as me. And we'll go here. The real engine that I think runs Totara are the hierarchies. And when we onboard and support you, that's one of the first things that we work on. And a good way to back into that is when I work with a new client, I always ask them, who needs what reports? Well, I don't even ask who. I start out with, what reporting do you need? What kind of reports do you need? And who needs those reports? And that helps me build out the hierarchies. Now, there are several hierarchies that you can build, and you can have multiple hierarchies in each of these. So sometimes I've worked with maybe nonprofits that have different organizations, that they have different mapping for each one in the same system, and that's fine. So you have a position hierarchy, an organization hierarchy, competencies would go here, and goals that your organization are working on here. The reason that you want to map these out is you can push out learning to all of these things, and you can also pull reports on all of these things. And this really allows the whole system to be customized to your organization. So organizations is the first one we typically work on. and we go to Manage Organizations. And I like to use a school district because most of us have gone to school and we kind of understand how a school district is organized. So under district office, I might have these departments, and under a high school, I might have this, and I might have that. And at the very highest level, I can send it out to everybody, like a certain type of learning, to everybody in ABC school district. I could send it out to everybody in district office. I could do it just to everybody in accounting. I can have as many nested levels as I want, and these things are tied to the user's profile. So it would know that maybe I am a bookkeeper, I work in the accounting department, and I'm at district office. So likewise, not only can I push it out by where they are in the organization, I could also do it by position, is another way. I can also set up audiences that might be special, like a new employee audience, and all new employees are assigned a certain type of learning. Or I can set individuals, and I can actually put in an email that way too and push it out. Or I can create custom learning, which we'll do with the learning plans, and make a very custom plan for somebody that I manage. So does that answer the question? I thought it was a really good question. Let me know if you have further questions or if I didn't quite hit that on the head. Okay, very, very good one. Okay, let's go back to our user of Michael Weber and back to his dashboard that I created for a manager of tools that might be useful for at a glance for a manager under my learning. Oh, I'm in here as me, and I went a little too fast. I wanted to go as Michael Weber. So let's go back here. Let's find him. And all right, let's log in as Michael Weber then. Okay, and now I'm back at his learning plan. So we did some feedback for Dr. Bailey. I've got a couple other people that have asked feedback for. Here's an interesting one. Somebody asked for an extension that does here, and so this person had a baby and wants an extension, and I can put I can grant that extension, or I could deny it, and then that person will get a notification and it will show up in their dashboard as well. Okay, so I think putting the tasks right up here, not only would they get an email, but they're organized in one place. You also get alerts. Alerts, you would also get an email oftentimes, but it's also nice to have those gathered in one place so you can work through them. So there are a lot of places when you manage other people where the employee can comment and the manager can comment on how things are going. And I think that's really formative, so that as they're working towards certain goals or working towards things that were set up during a performance review, it isn't just summative at that review time. Throughout the whole year, you can be commenting back and forth. So here I have a comment that somebody left, and we can click on this and look at it. And so this was myself, and I put, I'm looking forward to this course, and I can write a comment back, and they would get this both in their email and their dashboard too. So you can kind of see what people are working on. They can comment if they have questions or need help. And it's nice to have things like that. That's one type of alert. Here I have another alert, and it's about an appraisal or a review. And it says a company appraisal has been assigned to you. So that kind of goes back to the question before, can you have different things assigned to the organization. And so just the way we did learning, you can assign appraisals to different people or groups, and you can set those up. And it's saying you can go to the appraisal tab and you can look at that. So if I go here, here's my latest appraisal. Every organization can set up their own workflow. So all of this is all customizable. I just made a very simple one that has some different checks throughout the year. So in the beginning, we have to set this up. And my manager already completed this. This is my own appraisal. And now I can start this. And so there weren't any goals set up for me, but on enter your professional development details, I'll just put an X for now so you can kind of see maybe how I did on this competency. We'll just put an X in the interest of time here. And it asked me to answer different things. And then we can look at if what I said and what my manager agreed, and now that's checked off. And now we can start on the mid-year review, which is due by April 12th. I have to do my part, the manager has to do their part, and then we've got end of the year review. So the My Learning tab can help me keep track of all the stuff I've got to do. And I've got a couple more alerts here. And I decided to include a calendar. The calendar has several levels to it. I don't have anything coming up for me personally, but it would have any site-wide announcements or events would show up as one color. Any course or learning things like an end date or certification date that's due, any due dates like that. And then I can add things at the user level too. That calendar is exportable to all the major calendar that we have, so I could export it to my Google Calendar or my Outlook calendar if I wanted to. Another widget that I think is good to have on the dashboard for the manager is statistics. And my team hasn't been very busy, might be because they're fake, but it tells me in the last 30 days what my team has been up to and how we're progressing as a team. And that's just kind of interesting stats for me to see. So those are some things that I think at a glance dashboard on the My Learning page can really help a manager with their day-to-day work. Now, the next part I want to go looking at is the My Team tab. So anybody that's been assigned to me and has my employee ID as a manager ID or my name has been chosen as the person that reports to me will show up in the My Team tab. If you aren't a manager and no one reports to you, this tab does not appear for you. And the My Team looks like this. So these are the people that report to me. And at a glance, I can see some information like when they last logged in, the number of courses that they've started, the number of courses they've completed, the number of competencies achieved. This was one that I added. All of I think that was for testing. All of these are really reports that are customizable. So Totara is very, very flexible, and you can change how this looks for everybody and any extensions that were granted. So remember, we just had Michael Weber grant me one, and that shows up here. This all is exportable in various formats. But then under here, we can drill deeper. And so if I look and I can see what learning plans Susan Bailey is working on. And this learning plans can consist of several things. They can have courses, competencies, objectives, certifications, programs. And so this learning plan has 2 courses that have to be done, and the person can launch those courses and look here. I can comment if I want to and say, and what I like about the My Team tab is it's just a really easy way to quickly see where my team's at. I can encourage them really quickly and drill down really quickly. If I have a lot of people managing to me, I might want to see their profile, and it just gives me some basic information about them. I can see their positions, their activity reports if I wanted to, those kinds of things too. Let's go back here, and anything that has been anything that she signed up for. Sometimes these things, whoever sets up the booking, usually a site administrator, a course administrator, and they'll set up an event, right? And they might, one of the things that they can do in the settings for that event is require their manager to sign off on it. You know, so if they need approval to go, or if they're going to miss work or whatever, you can also set up an event so that managers get so many spots. So if there are 4 regional managers and you want to give them each 12 spots, you can reserve those, and then they can assign those to people too, and then everybody gets a fair number, so you can kind of see who actually signed up and who's going where. I can see Susan's record of learning. We kind of went over this before, so any courses, any competencies. In here, if I saw that maybe this is done by observation, and I can change that as well. So as the manager, I can give comments and do that as well, objectives and so on. If I go back here, I can see any appraisals that we're working. So she hasn't been assigned any appraisals at this time. If I go to the 360-degree feedback, she hasn't requested any right now, probably because she's not yet started an appraisal. And I could also see any of the returned ones on her, as well as she could as well. But she doesn't have any right now, but that would be available. Any goals that she's working, if we wanted to add one here, we can, any ones that have been set up, we can assign those there. They could also have personal goals that they're working to there. And anything that's required that she has to do. And with required learning, if somebody's coming due and it's close to the due date or past the due date, the manager is also going to get alerts so that you'll be aware of that as well on that main dashboard. But I like My Team. It's just really a quick way to get some feedback on where people's learning is at, and to help encourage them and to get some instant stats for them. Okay, the last thing that I really want to talk about is my learning plans, and a few of you wrote that in the pre-webinar questions that you wanted to know more about that. And so how to create a learning plan. If we go to learning plans here, we can create one either for yourself or for somebody that you're overseeing, or you can approve one. And at the site level, you'll have a template or two that people can start out with, and I'll just put practice learning plan. And you can put when it's supposed to start, when it's supposed to complete. Yeah, that's not going to work if the completion is before the start. And we can create this plan. Then here is has all the courses that have been set up to me. And so if I wanted to go in here, I could say I'm going to take these and add them to this learning plan. Okay, and again, I can comment. People could upload evidence of things that show that they're competent in these areas as well. Now I could add competencies, and this is where the work of adding all of these things to those hierarchies I was showing you before, this is where it's pulling from, and that's why it's a highly customizable system to your organization. So if I wanted them to master the phone system, let's say, I can add these, and now that's going to be added to this learning plan. And then we can go to objectives, and for this I believe we would write them, and usually they're more personal, so I'm going to skip that for today. A program of learning would be usually a set series of learning, so maybe I'm going to say the new employee orientation has to be done too. Now look at how it says send approval request. This is for Michael Weber. And this plan has not yet been approved. So Michael Weber could put it together, or I could, and then when I log in as me in my alerts, I should have one that says that I need to approve this. And so he's got a request, and I will approve it. Now Michael Weber is cleared to begin that plan. So learning plans are a way of putting a whole bunch of learning together. It could be a course, it could be several courses, it could be a certification, it could be a webinar, it could be things, just competencies that they have to show that they have mastered. I can, as a manager, create one. I could have the users create one, or I can push them out through the system that way. But the manager is kind of key, depending on how the site administrator has it set up. I have it set up that managers have to approve them. You don't have to have it that way, so that's an important thing. Unless the only time a manager would not have to approve them is if I push them out at the site level. So let's say it has to do with policies that everybody has to review, and everybody in the organization has to maybe read those and sign off that they acknowledge and understand them. That I might put in a learning plan and assign to everybody in the organization. I might decide that I'm not going to do manager approval, it's just required. But then when the manager goes to my team, they can see if that requirement has been met or not, and if not by the due date, they'll get alerts about that as well. Okay. So those are some very simple things that I think that are in Totara to make life better for the manager. Are there any additional questions that you have for me? Let's see, anything else? If not, I will send the recording in a link to all of you, and feel free to reach out with any additional questions or help that you need with Totara. We'd love to connect with you. I will also be sending, probably in the next week or two, our next webinar series. I'm kind of excited because those were asked by the audience. We're going to do one on how to make your content mobile friendly. So we've gotten a lot of requests for that, so I think that'll be neat. We have another question. Oh, another couple of ones. Great. That always makes it a lot more fun. Are there some interesting reports for managers using the report functionality? Okay. So a lot of the things that we were looking at are embedded reports. Okay. So you have the my learning, which has things like my team. Okay, and it was pulling in statistics like that. And you have the My Team, which is actually a lot of, and notice that says edit this report when you're in as a site admin. So you can change the look of this. So it actually is a report. But then there is a My Reports, which Michael Weber didn't have any set up. one of the things that I love about Totara is it has an amazing report builder that is not hard to use. So people with the correct rights can create reports on the fly, and you can even have them scheduled so they get emailed to the correct people with the correct data in them at the appropriate times. And again, that's where the hierarchy becomes very important. So let's say I wanted a course completion report, and I wanted managers to get that. So I could go to a position and I could pick that the people that are going to get that are going to be the managers in the organization. I could also say what data I want. So it could be that it rolls up data and sends different data to different people. So maybe the district office manager just gets all of the data from these people, and the high school staff only gets the data from that one. And you only have to create one report to show that. And I can demo that real quickly. We're going to have a webinar next month actually on the report builder and go a lot more in depth. And then, so real quickly, I'll go to the report manager and then I'll address the next question. These are really good. Thank you for asking them. So when you're a site administrator or somebody else who has the ability the permission to use the report builder, you go to Manage Reports. Okay, these are reports that were created by me in the past, usually for demos. These are all reports that are embedded in the system. So much of the system is an embedded report. You can click on the pencil and change what data from the database it shows, or if you want a graph or how that would look. You can also, down here, create a new report. So we'll just do course completion. Okay, and then it has a whole bunch of areas of the database that it's recommending, and not certification. I want, how about course completion? Okay, and then create a report, and I can title it what I want. I could put information here. This is going to be the columns of the report, and we'll go through this a lot more next month, a lot slower. I can also pull down different ones. I can reorganize this. I can name them different columns. I'll show how to do that next month. So this is a really good commercial for our webinar next month. I can pick different graph types of how I want the information graphed. I can have it filtered, so if I want it sorted by like the user's last name, I could do that. This is where it hooks into those hierarchies. So I could, this is usually something I help with on the onboarding and support, but this is where it gets really exciting, and that's why I think you want to start with the end in mind. What reports do you need and who needs to see them? And then you could put staff at or below the user's position, or, yeah, I could do that, or where they are in the organization. And that's how the data could roll up. So I could assign this to different managers, but only those people that the data should roll up, so their reports would look different. So the Northeastern manager might just get his data. The CEO would get everybody's data. Maybe the Southeast region would just get theirs. Okay, so there's a lot of different ways that we can configure this. We can also, oh, it wants me to save it. What's nice about this, in the old days of LMSs, you really needed to know MySQL and be able to query the database and write some programming to get what you want. Now it's just click and go. And so here is I can decide who's going to see those reports and who's going to get them. a regional manager, let's say. And then I can say how often are we going to run those and email those out to people. Okay, so yeah, the reporting can be very, very personal to what your organization needs. So I'm really glad that you asked that question. There was another question, and it was about SCORM packages. Well, let me see if I can get back to the questions. It sort of disappeared. Questions, here it is. And questions is, where would you upload external SCORM courses into Totara? Okay, much later in the year we're going to do one on course development. We didn't even touch that today. We were just looking at the manager perspective. But let's say you were a course designer and you were making courses. You would go into your course, so I'll just pick a course here. Let's go into business email etiquette, and I actually have a SCORM package in here ready to roll. And what we do when we want to upload that is when you are a course instructor or an instructional designer, you have the rights to do this. You turn on the editing and add an activity or resource. And these are all of your tool sets of things that can go into a course. SCORM package is one of them. And then when you click a radio button, it gives you a lot of information or more help. So embedded help is there. You click add. Okay, I would give it anything in Totara that has a red asterisk is required. So we put in a name and a description. We can drag and drop your SCORM file or your zip folder here. And then there are a whole bunch of optional things that you can do with that. Like you can decide how you want that to appear, and do you want the navigation to appear, and how many attempts, and when do you want it available, and do you want how will it be marked complete, and do they have to get a certain grade, and do they have to pass, and things like that. So that's how we add SCORM packages. Great question. And oh good, we have more questions. Is there any possibility to enroll a user into a course only with approval of his manager, besides the functionality of a learning plan? Well, there are lots of ways we can get people into a course. With the manager, usually we have it in a learning plan, and that's the way that's done. And you can have one course in a learning plan and push that out. If you want to bypass the manager, you can. So it's very easy. You can manually set them up, or you can push out in a learning plan who's going to be in what. Learning plans are usually the way that we enroll people in courses. It could be done if you wanted to and you gave the manager rights. I had to think about this a little bit, but if I go back to this course, I could, if I wanted to not use the learning plan way of doing things, you could have the manager have rights to do this, and the manager would go to enrolled users, enroll user, find the person like Miles Bailey here, and now Miles is enrolled. So that if you gave the manager rights to do that, they could. Yeah, that would be a good workaround. Can you set up prerequisite courses? Yes. What that is called in Totara, everything has its own language in every LMS, doesn't it? It's called programs. And in a program, let's say that you have wanting to be a manager program, and there are 3 things that they have to do before they can come to the final certification course. Maybe they have to go to a webinar, maybe they have to read some information and maybe they have to take an online course. You can set that all up in a program, and it can either be in any order or it can be on conditions, like you first must do this. When that's done, now the next piece will be open to you, and after that the next thing will be open to you. So that's called a program. When you make a program, you go to admin, site admin, it's done down here, and we would go to courses, and we want to go to manage programs, and that's where you would create one. And so some of the things that I've created, let's see, so I have some programs here. Add a new program. All right, and then I can follow the wizard, and I can say this is where I decide who is going to see it, if it's an audience or if it's going to be something off of the hierarchy. When it's available, once I finish this, I can determine what content, what assignments, any messages I want people to get when they're first enrolled, those kinds of things. So that could almost be a whole nother webinar. I'm glad you asked that one. But yes, prereq courses would be through programs, they're called. And then the next question is, can you set up a curriculum group of courses that is synonymous with the learning plan? Yeah, so you can have a program within a learning plan, or you can have courses in a learning plan with, the difference would be, if you just set them up as courses, they can do them in any order. If there's a program, you might be able to set up that I want this kind of a score and completion before they can go on to the next one. Can users upload homework to a course to be graded? They absolutely can. That gets back to, let's go back to my sample course. Let's go to this nursing course this time. Oh, that's a category. We didn't actually have a course there. All right, back to this email etiquette course. Okay. If I want to have them submit homework to be graded, like a paper or something, again, you would go to the course designer, would turn editing on. When that happens, this add an activity or resource shows up. And this has all of our tool sets of things that we can add. And so from here, what I want to add, it's called an assignment. Okay, and that's where they're going to turn in something. And again, it tells you what it is, and then it gives you directions here on how to do it. So I'm going to add an assignment. I would name it. And then I have to put a description because there's a red asterisk. I can have when it's due. I can have different types. So it could be, sometimes there are other programs that I have linked, like a portfolio. It could be something that they're going to upload, like a paper. It could be a text box where they just have to type, like, what was your takeaways from the conference that you attended or something like that. So I'll go with the file submission. I can have how much space that and how many files we're going to let them upload. If there's going to be a word limit, there are a ton of other configurations, like if I wanted to say what's the grading workflow, what does completion mean, and I could say maybe they have to receive a certain grade to complete this, and then in another place is where we put that, what a passing grade is, and then that would be checked off or tracked by the system. When I save and return to the course, now it's all set up, the user would see this and they would click on it, and right now I'm set as they would see an add submission button. Because I'm site admin, I also see what the teacher would see. They would see viewer grade submissions. So that's how that pieces works. These were excellent questions. I really enjoy hearing what you want to see. Please submit any future webinars that you would like, or if you want a private one, I'm always happy to do those too. It was really great having questions today. It makes it a lot more fun. If you think of more questions that you didn't think of during the webinar, feel free to send those. And I should get the webinar link in my email out to you probably later this evening or early tomorrow. And with that, thank you so much for attending. I hope this was useful to you, and I hope to keep the conversation going and understand more what your needs are with Totara. Have a great day, and and I think I answered all the questions. Okay, great. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.